Hey everyone, welcome back to Tuesday Tea with me, Alisha Bowker Mudrock. Today I have Melissa on. She is going to dive deep into this awesome theme we've been working on this month around reset. And so before we get to that, though, I just want to welcome everyone who's listening, and I'm going to let her introduce herself so you know who's kind of talking to you. But just as a reminder, we're really thinking of this spring season, Q2, as a time to really refresh, reset, and re-up. So I'm so excited for all the wisdom and lessons and stories and things that Melissa's going to share. But let's get to know her a bit first, and then we'll dive right in. So welcome, Melissa. So happy to have you.
Thank you so much, Alicia. I am absolutely honored to be here. Thank you so much. And interesting, I listened to the last one about joy. So again, honored to be here in this space. Thank you.
Yeah.
So my name is Melissa Cammack, and I am a licensed professional counselor. And I also earned my 500 hours as a yoga teacher, which was I know, crazy. Last year, at the beginning of 2024, I thought, I'm going to try the 200 hour. I never thought that I would
Do the five.
do the five and not only do the five to then turn it into a business. So that has been incredibly exciting, challenging. Love to see the evolution of that. So I feel like this idea of mind reset is pretty cool.
Yeah. No, and definitely, and that's sort of why I thought of you when I was thinking of the idea of a mind reset, because therapy obviously is a lot about the mind, but also yoga is such a mind body connection. So I'm sure we'll probably talk about the body a bit in here just organically. But when you sort of hear this phrase, a mind reset, like what even comes to mind? Like, what does that even mean to you? What are we even talking about with that, do you think?
That's a great question. And when I think about a mind reset, I think about what people often come to the couch or come to session with as a therapist. And so as I kind of put some thought into it, I feel like we, myself included, I'm so
Mhm.
guilty, or I don't even know if it's guilty, but more of the human struggle is getting stuck, freezing, or perseverating about something again and again and over and finding um, yourself absolutely stuck. There was
Hmm.
a time where I found myself like, I'm just going to hide. I'm going to put a blanket over my head and just
Yeah.
hide.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I needed that mental reset. I think that noticing when we are stuck, when we are frozen, when we are hiding, when we are fawning, whatever that may be, that is a cue, a clue to go, wait a second, what's happening here? Without the shame, without the judgment, and
Hmm.
going, what do I need in this moment? So
Hmm.
that's kind of my thought on it.
Hmm. No, I love that idea of using the clue of stuckness to be an aha moment that perhaps we need to like hit that refresh button, right? And I can think of it when your TV is acting up, the computer's acting up, like, right? We're so turning your iPhone on and off, like, we're so quick to reset devices when they're stuck. But I sometimes don't think it's as obvious that we are stuck, like that spinning wheel of death or whatever, as it is when it's about, something like a technology external piece. So what maybe would be some like I hear the stuck part, but either a personal experience or something with clients, like what does that kind of look like in real life of being stuck? I don't know if it's always as obvious as it sounds as we're like talking about it right now.
Absolutely. I kind of come back into this. Maybe a person is doing the same behavior, doing something again and again and expecting a different result. And it's like, why isn't this happening? That could
Mm.
be a cue um, or a clue. And it may look like self-sabotaging or behaviors, even self-harming.
Mm.
Those are all clues of what's happening. I like this idea of the role of the observer, like noticing. And I so encourage people I work with to take this role, this lens, without any judgment, notice those thoughts, trying to become more aware of what's happening.
Yeah.
And when we find ourselves again and in this narrative loop again and again, or find ourselves stuck in self-defeating thoughts and
Mm.
negativity or
Mm-hmm.
self-sabotaging thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
to notice it's happening. And then that's the first step, is notice this is happening. So then it kind of comes into, what do I do with that at that point?
Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%. And I'm curious too, with your background in yoga, do you find that in the movement and through the body, we can connect to some of these mindset shifts?
I absolutely think so. So part of another, taking another lens or another
Mm-hmm.
dimension of this, is noticing our thoughts and then noticing, what is my body telling me about this? Am I blocked in my throat, like, or my throat chakra? Am I having a hard time communicating my boundaries or my true needs and wants to my partner? Or
Mm-hmm.
noticing how these thoughts are impacting your body. And maybe also, if the opportunity or with time and practice, like, notice, what am I feeling? What are my emotions? Am I anxious? Am I fearful? Am I resentful? Again, no shame in any of those. That's part of our experience.
Yeah, yeah,
But if we can notice what's happening and go, okay, well, maybe in this moment, I do need a reset. I need to
yeah,
reboot, rewire in
yeah,
this
yeah,
moment.
yeah. I'm thinking, I know I just keep hearing this sentiment around, and this is what kind of gave me the idea of even doing this topic for this month. I think it's a natural spring cleaning, like it lends itself naturally, but I think there was a lot of hope and a lot of fears, a lot of anticipations, a lot of wonderings as we headed into this new year, what with like a new presidency and it just being a new year. And we're like 5 years out of the pandemic, like all the things and more. But something I think I hear a lot and I've heard a lot from clients and people in my life, and even I've felt myself, is I really feel like we're in this like scarcity space and there just seems to be a lot of fear, but I don't know if we can put the finger on exactly what the fear is, or maybe the fear feels different for everyone. Anyone can hear my cat. Walter wants to talk too. Hi, Walt. We see you. God, he was napping
Great.
all day. Just woke up right now. But I think that, and that fear is such a powerful emotion because we respond very uh, I don't want to use the word dramatically, but we respond in big ways to fear because our whole mind's job is to keep us alive, right? Like
Right.
survival is like the thing. And so even if we can say it doesn't feel like tangible or it's not about us or I don't really know or I can rationalize it, it doesn't mean that it leads with a lot of like authority when we're not aware of that, right? And so fear also can creep up and look like, waking up with those racing thoughts at 4 a.m. or acting out in sort of like reaction versus thoughtful response. It can look like not living totally to our values and really being honest about our goals because we're
Mhm.
like in that scarcity. I just got to like fix it now and protect kind of thing. And I'm not saying that in some cases this isn't necessary or real or whatever else, but I think this idea of that mind reset of what you're kind of talking about is really cluing into like, okay, these things all are true and happening, but it doesn't mean that this is the best or healthiest way to keep going. And it's exhausting and it feels overwhelming and it feels defeating. And so it sounds like what you're sort of saying is this idea of connecting to whether it's those physical feelings or those like specific loops, but this is that entry point to come at it of just more that curiosity or acceptance. And also, we don't have to keep for the next 9 months of this year, have to, and beyond, have to keep like being in this same sort of pattern.
Absolutely. And I think absolutely that's it. And as you said, that first step is noticing this is happening, kind of giving that lens, that view, that observing idea that it's happening. Like I am stuck, here I am. This is how it's
Mm-hmm.
impacting my body. And I do love the role of yoga and that in this in the moment of yoga, you're very present. And yoga looks so different for everyone. In full disclosure here, my yoga is not the hardcore pretzel yoga. I am, which is that's beautiful.
Yeah.
For me, my journey has been years of stress and trauma and all the things. I wound up developing an autoimmune disease. So I look at yoga as a way to be calm and to heal. So just slow my mind down. So I like a lot of yoga nidra and yin yoga. And yoga is one way to kind of get out of that stuck, that freeze, that ruminating mindset of all the clatter, the chatter, the clunkiness that's
Yeah.
happening
Yeah.
in the mind. And also like using that lens of being present, going outside. I think nature is amazing. And I know when I find myself stuck,
Mm-hmm.
again, noticing it's happening without the
Mm-hmm.
judgment, without,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, I mean, really, Melissa, why?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's happening. This is a thing. So going outside, I feel like you engaging the senses can be helpful. And I encourage my clients,
Mm-hmm.
whether they're yoga, working in a private session, or
Mm-hmm.
therapy clients, engage your senses.
Mm-hmm.
For some, it's music. Other people, it's touching things that are incredibly grounding, smell. I personally like to go hug a tree.
I
That's
love that.
the thing.
Yeah.
Or if I have the time, getting on the yoga mat and trying to shift that
That
stuckness and
energy.
like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, and
Mm-hmm.
be very intentional. And I think that can be challenging. There may be a time when people want to hide. And going back to what you're saying, there is a lot of fear right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's or the scarcity, fear, and all the things. We can get consumed in that. But when we notice it's happening, taking the opportunity, am I safe in this moment to go outside? Can I create space and be curious? What could it look like if I
Mm.
released some of this just for a bit
Mm.
and allow myself to reset?
Hmm. I think that's such a good point of like asking ourselves that permission. Because even if we can logically understand it's not really serving us, I think that sometimes those loops, that stuckness, the never ending tabs and lists, they do serve some sort of purpose,
Mhm.
right? Like ultimately, they are not super helpful, but it's doing something for us. And I think it can feel also scary to let go of the thing that is causing us so much like discomfort or stress or strain. And so I like this idea of placing it elsewhere or reorganizing the energy or whatever else. It's not to say that there might not be things to be fearful of, or there might not be things to be worried about, or that the world does feel more sparse. People are being,
Right.
so many people I even know just last week have talked about layoffs and money is unfortunately a thing we all have to have and to live and life's expensive right now. And like there's time feels sparse. Like there is like a lot of truth to all of these things, but instead of letting that live in that energy space that's consuming us in a negative way and keeping us stuck, I like this idea of asking what would it look like if I wasn't going to discount it or ignore it. But what if I just moved it somewhere else, tried to like uh, sort it in a way that works, I can work with it instead of feeling like I'm in opposition with my own brain or inevitably my own body, because I just don't think we can get away from the connection that mind body has. Like when we're talking about mind, we're also talking about body and vice versa.
Absolutely. I love the lens of self-compassion too. And I feel like that this
Mm,
can be helpful when we find that we're stuck.
mm.
Noticing we're here, we're frozen, whatever that is. And I like self-compassion. I think that there may be some misconceptions about it. Self-compassion does not mean pity. Self-compassion does not mean, oh, this is where we are.
Yeah.
Self-compassion is actually very much a yin and yang, yin yang energy of fierceness as well as kindness. It is,
Mm.
there's this yin of here I am, this is where I am in this moment, and this is uncomfortable. There's also this yin yang, however a person may want to pronounce that, energy of I need to do something. Like
Mm.
self-compassion is this, yes, it's here, it's uncomfortable. Instead of self-sabotaging, self-defeating, can I give myself a little bit of kindness in this moment? Like it's really challenging to be a human right now. And yes, there's so much negativity,
Mm.
scarcity, and there's just so much happening.
Mm-hmm.
And then this fierceness is in this moment, what can I do that is appropriate or within my value system
Yeah.
to move me?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean this magical thinking like seeing rainbows and unicorns and all the things. It's what can I do that's in alignment for me to move me a little bit forward to where I want to be and get
Yeah.
reset, get unstuck.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that visual. And I too often talk about the best antidote to overwhelm is action, is doing something, right? And so, like what you're saying, I can honor and respect and see that I'm overwhelmed, that I'm this, that, XYZ, and that fierceness. I love that word. So, what am I going to do about it? Because there's always something we can do. We can always just to stop moving is, as my grandmother would say when she was alive, like I stop moving, I'm gonna die. I gotta put my feet on the floor, I gotta get up and I gotta go. Because the minute I stop, it's done. And so I think that that is such a powerful image. And same with that, the duality that both can exist and both can really feed on each other to be something really empowering and helpful. They don't have to live in opposition, or it doesn't have to necessarily be a choice of one or the other.
Absolutely. And I think as people can become more embodied and what I mean by that is going into that role of the observer. What are my
Mm-hmm.
thoughts?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there X, Y, or Z. How is my body responding? There can be, I think it can allow more room of this kindness. This is where I am, as well as the fierceness, the doing. And I have to throw this out there. I am still working on this. I am not perfect at
Aren't we
all.
all?
I think it really hit me hard as I developed my autoimmune disease.
Mm.
In 2019, I was at a point where my cardiologist, I wasn't even allowed to exercise. I wasn't even allowed to go for a walk. And
Yeah.
I was a hiker, backpacker, half marathoner, martial arts, so many different things. And
Movement was a huge part of your life.
oh my gosh, it was what I always did. um, so I had to learn, and it's still a work in progress. All of these
Mm.
years later, and what you were saying about your grandmother,
Mm-hmm.
I feel that like there are times there's this other part of me that's like, oh, I'm so tired. And then, okay, well, let's just try. Let's try a little bit
Yep.
further, or
Yep.
let's do something. Going back to what you
Mm-hmm.
said, that action of do something. And in this chakra world, the yoga world, that doing, that action is in that third area, that solar plexus chakra.
Mm-hmm.
So, but more to learn about that in the
Yeah.
yoga world. It's so much fun how these energy centers along the spine, it can help direct us if we can tap into where we're noticing sensation and how to
Mm.
move forward.
Hmm. No, I'll have to have you back another time to hear all about the chakra stuff because that fascinates me. I don't know anything about it really, but it's so interesting. I'm so curious. But yes, I think it is just that good reminder that we don't exist in a vacuum. We are full of energy. Opposing things don't have to be oppositional in the negative way. I think that we live in this landscape of them right now, especially like in the larger conversations of society. Like there is something beautiful about opposing things coming together to be something really powerful instead of fighting, like burning their energies apart. And I feel like I had a guest on, it was like around Christmas, but she was talking about like superheroes and how like the villain and this like the superhero cannot be without the villain and the villain has to be there with the superhero. Like one is not without the
Yes.
other. And that is what makes, like I'm not a big comic person, but who hasn't seen like the Batman and stuff, but like those worlds aren't interesting if they're not all there. And what was like, if one superhero comes up, then there has to be a villain that rises up too. Like it cannot be without. And so I think it's like, and she was talking how she's rooting for the villain. I don't remember the whole why, but it was just very interesting of like, it's not all so simple. It's like good and bad or right or wrong or this or that. It's like without, they are not, they are nothing. And
Right.
so just thinking of that duality in so many forms for ourselves and like that observer role and how can this all work together instead of again, just being like paralyzed, stuck by what feels oppositional, but maybe can be compatible in some very interesting way, you know?
Absolutely. Making space for the dualities. And
Mm-hmm.
you're right, they exist together instead of the black or white, good or bad, right or
Mm-hmm.
wrong.
Mm-hmm.
There's such a spectrum of all the things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how does a person make that work? How can a person, when we're stuck, how can a person, even in the thickness and the fog, or how can we begin to find comfort or find a sense of peace? I often use the metaphor of, and I heard this on one of your other podcasts too. So it's something similar. I often use a metaphor with my clients, like the rip current is always under us. It's there. So if we're at the
Mm.
beach and we're riding along and we're in our little raft or whatever kayak, that rip current is there. And there are times it is more intense, or kind of using the mental clutter, it can be more intense.
Mm.
So learning the skills, like, yeah, that rip current is definitely there. What are the things I can do to kind of get me to make me more present? So I notice it's happening, noticing
Right.
that, and work toward, not getting sucked under and under the water, because
Yeah.
swimming against the current, you'll go down.
Right. Right. You'll get
So
tired out.
moving,
It's not gonna,
right.
a
So how can
losing
I
battle.
it is a losing battle. So how can I ride this really harsh wave
Right.
current
Right.
and still keep my head
Get to
afloat?
safety. Mm-hmm. That's a great visual. I like visuals, even though this is totally a sidebar, but a friend and I were talking about I don't when I read books and stuff, one, I don't like hear the words in my brain when I'm reading, and she was like, what? And then two, I don't really like read in pictures. So for as much as I speak in metaphors, when I'm like intaking information through the written word, I don't know. It just goes in. And I don't like books. I don't really care about too much details in books because I'm like, I'm not even seeing it. Like, I just want the gist. So everyone's brains are so different, but it's just, I was just thinking how funny it is that like, I love using them. I like, they resonate when we're talking about it. I can see it, but there's something about reading to my brain. I don't see in pictures and I don't hear. I don't hear it
That's
out loud.
okay.
No, it is. It's just like, I was like, So what about you? I'm curious. Now I was taking a survey. Do you hear or see in pictures? Because it was like a survey about how some people don't, some people do.
Oh, that's fascinating. I kind of see. I mean, I feel like I
Okay.
can almost be there and live it
Yeah.
and be
Yeah.
engaged, totally
Yeah.
immersed.
Yeah. Yeah. The biggest why I don't like fantasy books very much because that's what they are a lot about. And I'm like, I don't know. There's come on. So, a little bit for everybody, but just made me think of that. Anyways, it's Friday. My brain's all over. But as we're sort of wrapping this up, what what do you think would be like your strongest piece of wisdom or takeaway that you want to leave folks with? Because I think you've offered us so much, but what would be that little summary piece that you want to drop at the end?
All right, thank you so much. I think one is encouraging the role of the observer, like trying to offer some space and nurture that. And then the other is engaging the senses. Like,
Mm,
yeah, all of these things are happening in this moment. What is most helpful for me? Can I engage my senses to get me out of this stuckness, being frozen, and that kindness piece too, like that.
mm.
This is happening. I'm going to be kind, but I'm also going to do.
Yeah, yeah. I love it. I love it. I love it. Such good thoughts around just identifying when we need a mental reset and also some practical ways to do so. So I really appreciate that. So is there anything else you want to leave us with in terms of things you're offering, how people can connect with you? Just anything you want to share there?
Sure. So I am on social media for my therapy business. It would be under Sycamore Psychotherapy. And then for yoga, it would be Embodied Energies Yoga.
Mhm.
You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, website. I am there. Something that I would love to throw out there, just giving this a try. For the rest of this year, it's been a chaotic year. I have offered a free virtual class of Yoga Nidra. So, Yoga Nidra is a conscious sleep and there's an opportunity to get into this liminal space of being awake and then being asleep or drifting,
Mhm.
coming in and out of that space. It's amazing. It is so refreshing. But I'm offering a free class the second Wednesday of every month at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a virtual class. You can find the link on the website with Embodied Energies. And
Awesome.
yeah,
I love that. Yeah, definitely check it out, try it out. And I appreciate you being here. Like I said, I'll have to think about when it fits, but having you back to talk about chakras and share even more of your wisdom. But I
thank
appreciate you,
you so much.
Melissa. Thank you
Thank you,
so
Alicia.
much.
Have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, guys.